Mohammed. Attended by representatives from over 45 African nations, including former heads of state, scholars, and political movement leaders, the meeting will draw upon their wealth of experiences in democratic governance and together are here to explore practical strategies, fulfills its promises while safeguarding the continent from authoritarian regression. President Dr. Samia says state of democracy in the country is built strongly on the foundation of good governance.
Where there are elders, nothing goes wrong. So this retreat should therefore serve as a platform to deliberate on unfavorable state of affairs and propose practical ways of improving the situation, especially in our continent, Africa. I launched our agenda for strengthening and consolidating democracy in the country. The first R stands for reconciliation, mainly among political parties, but also other groups in our society. This agenda recognizes the value of reconciliation in strengthening national cohesion. Through dialogue and mutual accommodation, we have managed to resolve some of our differences. We have strengthened our unity, and we are now forging ahead as a unified nation and working towards a more peaceful and prosperous Tanzania.
Former President Jakaya Kikwete insists the strong foundations of democracy do come from the founding leaders after independence.
But we in Tanzania have somewhat been lucky. In many ways, it is thanks to the vision and efforts of our founding fathers, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the first president of the Republic of Tanganyika, and later the first president of the United Republic of Tanzania, and Sheikh Abeid Aman Karume, the first president of the People's Republic of Zanzibar, and later the vice president of the United Republic of Tanzania. They laid a firm and strong foundation upon which successive generations of leaders, me included, have continued to advance the nation-building project in our country.
The former president of Sierra Leone, Ernest Bai Koroma, who is also the chairman of the forum, asserts that Tanzania is exemplary when it comes to democracy.
I strongly believe that there is a lot we are going to gain from their rich and inspiring experiences.
Various stakeholders who are attending the meeting expressed their optimism about democracy in Africa.
Tanzania is doing well democratically. We are very grateful to our president for opening the doors for people to express themselves. We strongly advise that this freedom not be misused. We are very grateful to the president for opening this meeting and talking about democracy. We have seen various debates going on in the country, and we believe that it will pave way for the youth.
Some notable delegates attending the retreat and conference include former President Jakaya Kikwete, former President Joaquim Chissano of Mozambique, and former Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn of Ethiopia.
The president of Hungary, Katalin Novak, has arrived in the country tonight for a third-day working visit which aims at strengthening economic and diplomatic relations between the two countries. Outlining the schedule of the president in Dar es Salaam, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and East Africa Cooperation, Stegomena Tax, says the Hungarian president will meet Her Excellency President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan tomorrow at the State House in Dar es Salaam. She said the two sides will sign a number of bilateral agreements on the areas of education, innovation, and science and technology. Furthermore, Dr. Tax says the president will also visit the honorary consulate of Hungary in Tanzania and thereafter head for Arusha for a personal visit and return to Hungary thereafter from Arusha International Airport. According to the government, the Hungarian investment volume in the country is still low compared to other European countries and is estimated to be at $1.79 million net worth. Meanwhile, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and East Africa Cooperation says Tanzania is to host an Africa Human Capital Heads of State Summit that will also involve ministers to be held from July 25th and 26th in Dar es Salaam. Dr. Tax says the summit comes in response to engagements with government focal points on the need to draw attention to the role of human capital in economic growth and elevate the discussion on the importance of investing in people.
Tunatambua kwamba rasilimali watu ni kitu kikubwa sana kama unataka kuleta maendeleo katika taifa lolote.
We believe that human capital is very important if you want to bring development to any nation. And indeed, in Africa, we have been praised for having youth capital. But how do we use this youth capital? In Tanzania, we are taking some initiatives to develop their skills, and we do recognize their importance. There are various programs put in place to develop young people.
The meeting is expected to be held on two levels, where on July 25th will be at ministerial level and on July 26th will involve the heads of state. The summit will conclude with Dar es Salaam Declaration outlining on how to make young people the capital for African countries. And on to some business-related news. The governor of the Bank of Tanzania, BOT, Emmanuel Tutuba, says the bank has sufficient foreign currency reserves to cover the importation of goods and services for at least 4 months until July 14th this year. He said the country has reserves of $5.55 billion foreign currency, which is sufficient for the importation of goods and services for about 5 months. The governor had a meeting with various stakeholders in Dar es Salaam to discuss the best way to manage and run foreign exchange business in accordance with the laws, regulations, and guidelines issued by the central bank.
Na sisi kama serikali, lengo letu ni kuendelea kuweka misingi na mifumo ya kusimamia hizo biashara.
And we as the government, our goal is to continue to put the foundation and the systems that stand for business, because we want to see when you wake up, you all find the government is creating a conducive environment that supports businesses, the security of the borders, but also the police force continues to manage and protect people and their property. Now, as a regulator in this sector, our goal is to support and empower those businesses so that they do well and are run legally, and the government receives its taxes so that the business can go further.
Furthermore, the governor assures that BOT will continue to closely monitor the dollar tendency and other foreign currencies and take appropriate measures to ensure that the country's economy is not affected by the challenge of the global dollar deficit. And on to the next news. The Minister of the Internal Affairs, Hamad Massaoun, says the government is committed to end the challenges of overcrowding in jails and improve other living conditions in prisons. Massaoun made the remarks during the launch of the National Parole Board and the opening of its first meeting in Dar es Salaam. Here's the report prepared by Fortunate Shane and read by Apasia Ringo.
Minister Massaoun is here to officiate National Parole Board, insisting that all the prisoners who have received parole to be disciplined and embrace the rehabilitation training they have received.
Among the funds in the budget are aimed at building new prisons, as well as ensuring that we increase the number of prison dormitories and the like. And even in this year's budget, there are funds that have been set aside for the construction of new prisons.
He also adds that the government plans to carry out major operational reforms of the police force, which will also include improving the operational mechanisms.
The improvement of the infrastructure will be the solution for the police force in the area of the use of information technology, for example, and also to strengthen the operational mechanisms and their working environment.
And the General Secretary of the National Parole Board, Mzee Ramadhani Nyamka, asserts that the society should involve itself in the rehabilitation of the criminals who have received a parole.
And we would like to inform you that since the National Parole Board started to manage the implementation of the parole board laws, This is the 8th phase for a period of 3 years, according to the law. And until now, 46 sessions have been held to discuss prisons, as well as the prisoners discussed 6,392. And those who benefited from the parole are 5,678. And 714 prisoners' petitions were rejected for various reasons.
Parole is a legal procedure that allows a prisoner sentenced to serve a prison sentence of 4 years or more to serve part of his sentence in the community under special conditions after meeting the criteria set.
Tufuatilie Ringo, and moving on to the next news, the Director General of Tanzania Investment Center, TIC, Giliteri, says the center targets to attract more investments worth of $5 billion per year by 2026 compared to the current investments recorded by the center. He had a meeting with media editors aimed to explain the trend of registration of investments in the country, insisting that proving incentives to large investors has made the country to see an increase of new and productive investments in the country.
Tanzania is a country with the ability to attract more investment projects compared to all its neighboring countries, including SADC countries. We have the infrastructure and the modern port. We have land and human capital, and the cost of electricity and water is also low. Our geographical location makes us able to sell in many countries in higher demand.
He adds that the center aims to support the country to be self-sufficient, especially in the area of sugar and oil, while making it clear that the projects that are given priority include agricultural projects, minerals, and forest products. Moving on to the next news, the management of Dar es Salaam Port continues to emphasize that the investment will be made by the DP World from Dubai, and the port is only in some areas of the port. Here's the report prepared by John Matthias and read by Tufuatilie Ringo.
Dar Es Salaam Port continues to be busy as usual. Day in, day out, various activities are taking place here. Today, the Dar es Salaam Regional Commissioner, Albert Chalamila, is visiting the port.
The investment that needs to be made here is to have modern equipment, such that we are getting rid of these equipment called mobile cranes, and that we are entering more into SSG. These need to be laid here in this port.
Chalamila insists the investment to Dar es Salaam Port to modernize even further as its operation is critical.
We need to embrace more digital world in order to ensure that the port of Dar es Salaam has a great contribution not only to the revenue of the nation, but also to the development of the economy as a whole.
Here it is emphasized that the private sector investment in Dar es Salaam Port is mainly in some areas of the port.
We are talking about the Dar es Salaam port, and not only this port, there are other areas proposed in the discussion. Only 8% will enter into the agreement. But if we grow with great demand, we will continue to allow investment.
Before we wind up our local news tonight, let us now have a look on today's exchange rates according to the Bank of Tanzania, BOT. Don't miss TBC News every weekday to know all the latest in exchange rates. Time now for all the latest in sports news. In sports news, the General Secretary of Tanzania Sports Council, Neema Msita, says Tanzania has high hopes for the swimmers participating in the World Swimming Championship, expecting them to bring medals to the country. Speaking during the handing over of the national flag to the swimmers in Dar es Salaam, Msita directs the swimmers represent well the nation and perform at the championships for the pride of Tanzania.
We want to hear big things from you. Even if you will not get medals from the competition, but we need to see you finish in good time, hoping that in the next you will finish on top and get medals. The government wants medals.
Na ndo maana inaweka nguvu kubwa sana kwenye maendeleo ya sekta hii ya michezo.
Tanzania will be represented by 4 swimmers in the World Swimming Championships scheduled to take place from the 25th of July to the 30th in Japan. The coordinator of the NBC Dodoma Marathon, Godwin Semenyu, says that the race will be used to develop talents and give experience to athletes ready for international competitions. Speaking to TBC News in Dar es Salaam, Semenyu insists that the preparation for the race is at the final stage and urges many athletes and stakeholders to be ready for the race.
Kwanza wajiandae kweli kweli kwa sababu mpaka sasa hivi,
first of all, they have to prepare very extensively because athletes from 8 countries have shown the interest of participating in the competition. As the winner of 42 kilometers will be given a cash prize of 10 million Tanzanian shillings, which is very big in the country, hoping that there will be more competition in the race.
Kwa nauli 30,000 na basi kwenda Dodoma, unarudi na uwekezaji kabisa wa.
The NBC Dodoma Marathon will take place at Dodoma on July 23rd, as the guest of honor will be the Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa. That is sports news, and now before we conclude the news bulletin, let's take a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
Hello, I'm Amina Saleh from Tanzania Meteorological Authority. Welcome to 24 hours weather forecasting starting from tonight. The wind is expected to flow at the speed of 40 km per hour over the entire coast, and the state of the sea is expected to be rough. Over the Lake Victoria and Lake Tanganyika, the wind is expected to flow at the speed of 30 km per hour, and the state of the lakes are expected to be moderate. While over the Nyasa, the wind is expected to flow at the speed of 40 km per hour, and the state of the lake is expected to be rough. Tanzania Meteorological Authority had issued an advisory of strong wind reaching 40 km per hour and large winds reaching 2 meters over the entire coast. And for tonight, the cooler condition is expected in most parts of the country, and the minimum temperature is expected to be 5 over Mbeya region. For tomorrow, over the entire coast, are expected to feature partly cloudy condition with light rain showers over a few areas. And the rest of the country are expected to feature partly cloudy conditions. Now let's have a look on 4 days with the forecasting. Tanzania Meteorological Authority, thanks for watching and have a good night.
That marks the end of the news bulletin for tonight. Don't miss our next bulletin in Kiswahili at 11 p.m. I am Teddy Mfaranyanga. Have a lovely, lovely night.